You wanted the best. You've got the best podcast, the hottest podcast in the world. The Chris Voss Show, the preeminent podcast with guests so smart you may experience serious brain bleed. The CEOs, authors, thought leaders, visionaries, and motivators. Get ready. Strap yourself in. Keep your hands, arms, and legs inside the vehicle at all times, because you're about to go on a monster education roller coaster with your brain. Now, here's your host, Chris Voss.
Hi, folks. I'm your host, Chris Voss of The Chris Voss Show. Thanks for tuning in. We're coming to you guys from the Chris Voss Show studios in Chris Voss Show Landia. And as you can hear, we've added the new opera singer who will hopefully be singing the new byline or whatever the hell it is, a bit that we always do. So there you go. We hired an opera singer for this damn show. Now it's official. We're legitimate. So there you go. As always, folks, we appreciate you guys referring this show to your family, friends, and relatives. And we had to pay that opera gal a ton of money. So please help us out by referring the show. Share it with your family, friends, and relatives. Goodreads.com/Chris Voss. LinkedIn.com/Chris Voss. We pretty much blew the budget for the whole year. It was like $5. And go to it, talk Chris Voss 1 and what was the other thing? I don't know, LinkedIn newsletter and all that good stuff. YouTube.com. We have an amazing mind on the show, and it's clearly not me because I'm just fumbling about here at the beginning of the show with the new intro. And we're going to be talking to her about her entrepreneurial experience, what she's done with her business, some of the arc of her life that's quite extraordinary and what she's been able to accomplish. And we're going to be talking about some of the things that she can give you the best advice on as well. Today we're joined with Rachel King, and she is of the King Law Firm. She's a lawyer, entrepreneur, veteran, wife, and mother. She's also known as the Lawyer King. Do I have that right, Rachel?
That is it, the Lawyer King.
Do we need to have like some processions or like some trumpets? The Lawyer King has entered the room. Do we need to have
yes,
something
please,
like that?
I'll bow.
Everyone curtsy and do all the thingies, whatever those are. Rachel King joins us on the show. She's a serial entrepreneur, starting at the age of 12. Honest, she started sooner than me. Damn it, I started at 18. Well, I must have been slacking for 6 years. She started at the age of 12. She has a work ethic and drive that in early age led to 7 years of military service. Utilizing the discipline skills, she moved forward, owning multiple businesses and acquired the desire to continue expanding her talents. Her passion for law was instilled in her from birth from her father's law career, so she followed in his footsteps and opened her law firm in 2014. The combination of entrepreneurship, discipline training, and understanding of law allows her to be the rising leader for California, Arizona, Texas, and Kentucky, with her firm focusing on strategic litigation in family law, probate, trust, elder law, elder abuse, conservationships, and guardianships. Along with her impressive career, she's a proud wife and mother and loved by her community for her continued service and outreach. Welcome to the show, Rachel. How are you?
I'm doing great. That was a mouthful, huh?
There you go. And I'm glad you're loved by your community, because we're hated by my community, or at least I am personally. The Chris Voss Show people seem to enjoy, but whatever. They drive by the house and throw eggs. So give us a .com and give us a .com and tell us where people can find you on the interwebs, please.
You can find me at thelawyerking.com, on all the socials at The Lawyer King. I would love just like everybody, follow, subscribe. I don't even know what the rest of them are. All of the likes.
All of the likes, follow the likes and all that good stuff. So give us a 30,000 overview of what you do and how you do it.
Oh, well, I'm a business owner first and foremost, but that's not quite as cool. I'm a lawyer. I own a law firm. I practice in California, Arizona, Kentucky, and Texas. And like you just said, I specifically focus on strategic litigation in these areas of law. I somehow ended up in like all of the very, very emotional areas of law. That must say something about me. But my goal is really to work with my clients in a way that we can get them through their legal case as quickly, cost effectively as we can, given the facts and the laws that are in place, to reach their goal. And that is kind of the boiler, that if you boil it all down, that is how I practice law. And that is what I do with every single case that I take.
There you go. It sounds like something in what you cared about or passionate about drew you to the segment of law that dealt with family law and different family aspects. Is that correct?
Well, when you first become a lawyer, here's a little, insider information. Sometimes it's really hard to get cases, but you can always find family law clients. So that's where I started. Is I started with family law clients, and as I continued to practice and get more experience, I noticed actually that a lot of attorneys burn out on family law or on these very, very contested family issues. But I was able to put up really strong personal boundaries. I was able to handle these highly emotional situations in a way that didn't affect me personally. And so no matter how much I fought against doing them, I realized I'm really good at them. And because of that, I have continued to grow. And once you're good at something, it makes it a whole lot easier to do.
Oh, definitely. And family law is pretty good. There's always people getting also like divorces and all that sort of good stuff.
Well, yeah, but it's not just divorces. Now we've got all the people that aren't getting married. And man, you talk about family law issues. They have more than the married couples getting divorced.
Do they really? Like, no one's getting married anymore. I remember in Vegas, I can't remember what it was, 10, 15 years ago. Vegas just quit having a 24-hour office for marriage licenses. And I was like, wow, marriage must really be in decline if, the place everyone really comes to get married, or at least shotgun married or whatever.
Right, the drive-through.
The drive-through. Yeah, Elvis and stuff. I'm like, wow. They're like, yeah, we're not gonna be open 24 hours a day anymore. And I'm like, this is the city that's open 24 hours a day. But
right.
I mean, it's not really the right city to get married in, for that matter. When it comes down to it, it's got all the evils and ills that you can possibly imagine. Which is
but funny thing about Vegas, if you get married in Vegas but you live in California or Arizona or something, typically you end up having to get divorced in the state that you actually live in. You can't just go in. Spoiler alert, you cannot, in most cases, annul, a drive-through wedding in Vegas. It doesn't work like that in divorce.
Wow. So I know that there's certain states that are what do they call them? There's certain states where if I marry somebody, they instantly own like 50% of everything, including my companies and stuff. I forget. I don't know if
that's exactly how it works, but there are community property laws.
Community property laws. That's the one I'm looking for. And you got to get a prenup and stuff. And so if you get married in Vegas, I think Vegas is community property too.
So I don't practice in Nevada, but if you get married, we'll use California. If you get married in Vegas, you live in California, you are in a community, you live in a community property state. So you would fall under the community property laws, but you don't just get married and then your spouse takes half of everything. Anything you came into the marriage with is typically considered separate property. So
note to self, when I get married in Zimbabwe, stay there, damn it.
Right? Look at all the laws actually in all of the states. And if you're going to get divorced, go and move there 6 months prior to filing, and then you fall under their laws.
Oh, is that how it works?
All right. For divorces.
I don't remember. I'm still waiting on my first divorce. I've got a few gals of mine. I got about 2 or 3 divorces lined up. I just got to time them right. So give us a bit of your history, your background. How were you raised and what got you down this path? It sounds like you started your company early too, when you're 12.
I did. So I'm from divorced parents. I lived the very typical, I don't want to say typical, you're not supposed to say that anymore, but a child visitation where I stayed with my mom during the school year and went to my dad's during breaks and holidays. But the households were quite different. So I lived in 2 very different households. I had great parents on both sides, but I would not, and while we were comfortable financially, I did not grow up getting everything I wanted. So anytime I wanted something, basically it was no, or, I think the answer was mostly no, honestly, Chris. And then I, at one point thought, I think it was probably when I was about 12. I thought, if I pay for it, you don't get to say no. I paid for it. And so that's what I think started my idea of wanting to own a business. Also, in both families, they were self-employed. So my stepdad was self-employed and my dad was self-employed. So I kind of everything that goes with owning a company, I was very, very fluent in. I saw the struggles, I saw the benefits, I saw the flexibilities, I saw all of it. And so when I got to 12 and I thought, well, I don't even know. I think I wanted a pager or something, right? If go look that up if you don't know what it means. I think I wanted a pager and I couldn't get one. And I went to my mom and my stepdad and I said, well, if I pay for it, what's the problem? And they were pretty cool. There was lots of problems with it, especially contracts, but they said, okay. And so I started a babysitting company.
Oh, wow.
And that was, I guess, the beginning of my entrepreneurial journey.
There you go. And once you get the drug, man, you're kind of screwed for life with the entrepreneurial thing, huh?
Honestly, they teach it to you too. Way back when you read Tom Sawyer, right? So my mom always says like that whole whitewashing of the fence thing really stuck with you, Rachel. And I thought, yes, if I can make money off of other people, I don't know why I would ever do the work myself.
That's brilliant. I never thought of the Tom Sawyer thing like that. Such a great book, and such a great musical, a song from Rush. So you go along this journey. Where do you go from there?
After I started my babysitting company, obviously I was still in school. I opened during my high school years. I became a swim instructor at the YMCA. During the summertime, I would do private in-home lessons. And again, when that got to be where my calendar was full, then I brought on some other people on the side, some of my friends, and, paid them to do the swimming lessons. From there, I knew I wanted to be a lawyer probably since I was early high school. And so I knew the trajectory that you had to go to college. But when I was 18, I tried going to college and that was a massive failure. So I quickly found myself, without parental financial support, with all the things, realizing I was not nearly as employable as I thought I was. And the life is very expensive. And that kind of forced me into the Army. I remember thinking, oh God, my mom had kicked me out of my house, or out of her house, not my house. And I remember thinking, okay, if I can join the military and I can get a ship date, right, to basic training within like 2 weeks, I can probably go beg to my mom and be like, please let me crash on your couch for 2 more weeks. And it actually worked. And that's kind of how I landed myself in the Army, which was a great experience, but it was not planned. I don't come from a military family, and it was kind of my, oh goodness, what am I going to do with my life? Well, they'll feed me at least.
There you go. Well, our military teaches incredible amounts of leadership and self-reliance and stuff. I mean, I've been totally impressed by everything that we do, and you see the difference in the quality of what we teach and the individual leadership and the ability to individually team, even if your above command is lost or non-communicative. The individual team can still rock. And so it's really cool what we teach our military. You can see the difference between our military in performance as opposed to like the Russian military, which is like the second best military in Ukraine right now. I
like how you slipped that in there.
Yeah, I stole that from I think the Secretary of State, so it's interesting to see the difference in leadership, and it teaches people a lot of stuff. Maybe we should just force everyone to go in the military. Now that I'm too old to go, but it's hard to do college and stuff when you own your own company. I was supposed to go to college, and then I started my own company, and I was like, no, I want to see where this goes. I want to see where my own sort of journey goes. So what got you steered towards, well, I think it was your father, right? What made you decide, hey, I'm going to go into law?
Well, yes, my dad is an attorney. So I was around law a lot. I really liked, again, I came from 2 very different households growing up. So I liked what I saw. I only saw very limited time with my dad and the practice because I was only with him over the holidays. But for example, when I was there over Christmas break, he had to work. And so he would spend the evenings and we would go over his cases, and he would, pretend that I had a say in how he practiced, asking my opinion. And that really, I think, resonated with me a lot. I have a really sexy answer, and I have a really real answer as to why I wanted to become a lawyer. And the sexy answer is I wanted to help and make everybody's lives better and do all of the things and improve the world. The real answer as to why I actually wanted to become a lawyer at that age. And I'd like to just preface this with I was like 18 to 20 when I actually started on my journey to become a lawyer. Was I really liked the money that could be made. I really liked the power that you got, and the people, when you said you're a lawyer, they all kind of, oh my gosh. So I said,
and now you're a king.
I was really attracted to that idea.
You're after the power. Now you're the king. You got all the power. She's the lawyer king, ladies and gentlemen. So what was the hardest thing about starting your business and getting it going? I know the attorney business can be competitive.
I had history growing a business. Actually, my husband was deployed when I was in law school. And when he got out, we started a different company. Now he runs it called DIY Barbecue. So not only did I have experience running companies during my teen years, we'd also started this company. It is now a 7-figure company. And I think it actually hit 7 figures maybe before I opened my firm. So I had a lot of trial and error, right? And I'd like to emphasize the error in that statement before we made it. So when I opened my law firm, it was kind of I'm at a different place in my life. I was married. I had 3 children. I didn't want to go and work for somebody else and have them profit. I already fell in love with the idea of making money off of other people and the delegation role. I'm a supreme delegator. So I took all of the skills I had as an entrepreneur and I started my firm as a business. And I think that's one of the deciphering factors is many attorneys start their own law firms and they focus on the practice of law. But really, you have to remember that it's a business. And so as a new attorney, the practice I was still learning because you don't really learn how to practice in law school. And I think I was successful because I started it as a business and I learned how to practice by relying on my dad and my other attorney family members.
There you go. I know one of the issues, or my understanding is one of the issues with the attorney school is they don't really teach you the business end of it, right? And you kind of knew that coming from your previous business experience.
They don't teach it at all. Now, I went to law school, quite a while ago, and I've heard that they've tried to make changes and have, classes to show kind of the business side of running a law firm. I think they're electives. I don't think they're required. And here's the thing. I truly, after owning companies, I really think there's natural entrepreneurs and there's people that are not meant to be entrepreneurs. And knowing that as a human, knowing that about yourself, it doesn't matter which side you fall on, but really understanding it and then going after and becoming the best that you can be, whether that's an entrepreneur or, an employee, I think is awesome. But they don't teach you how to run a law firm, let alone really the real life practice of law in law school.
There you go. It's interesting to me. If I tell people if I could go back to when I was young, even when I started my own business, I would have told myself, go finish school and become an attorney. The wonderful thing about attorney and the law is so important. I mean, you read the Constitution, you read what our country's about. I mean, we're a nation of laws. And it's so, I find it so intriguing at my age, all the different laws that we have and how they work and how they build a system that's, as a nation of laws. It gives us a rule of law sort of basis, how things are litigated. When you become successful, you find out that the war that used to go on between medieval clans of, battle of blood and sword, are really done between rich people in the courts now. So it's just rich suing rich people. It's fun.
Yeah, for everybody that doesn't know if they want to be a lawyer, first of all, it's a lot of work, so you have to want to. But one of the things that I think is amazing about being a lawyer is that you don't have to practice law. I actually just yesterday, somebody said, "Oh, but you're a real lawyer, Rachel, because you go into court and litigate." And I thought, well, that's cool to be called a real lawyer. But gosh, as a lawyer, you could go and be the CEO of major corporations. You can go into politics. You can go teach. Talk about job security. It's probably one of the most secure forms of education that you can have.
You can use it for just about anything. I mean,
Absolutely.
and that's why I like the skill of being able to start companies and own companies and run companies, is because I can use it for just about any sort of field. But so can you do with law, and understanding the laws and stuff just gives you so much knowledge. It's such a great thing to have. So if I would go back, I would become a lawyer, and I've worked with some pretty savvy, probably semi-evil lawyers, and learn some stuff. And so it's just always interesting to me how it works. What would you advise people that maybe are thinking about being, they're young and or maybe they're old? I don't know. I think my aunt got her law degree when she was in her 40s or 50s. What would you think about? What would your advice be to people who are thinking about getting into law?
Man, I get asked this question a lot, and I feel like I'm always like the Debbie Downer with my answer.
Uh-oh.
I think it is so much work that you have to really be dedicated to the educational journey. It's not like going and getting a sociology degree just so you can check that box. It requires such a huge amount of emotional and mental investment that I think before you decide that you want to be a lawyer or that you're going to go to law school, really decide that that is what you're going to do and what you're going to commit to from an education standpoint. It's also super expensive. So I can't imagine getting through 1 year of law school, still having to pay for it and being like, oh, I just really don't like this. That's like the worst, right? So Be sure you like it, commit to it, and then understand that it's going to be really hard, but it is so awesome on the other side. Like it is truly, I mean, I'm still kind of in awe that I get to say I'm a lawyer and that I still get that power response from people. And I get to help people, which at this point in my career, actually, I like to do, right? I really love being able to help people. So make sure it's what you want to do. Know that it's going to be a grind. It's going to be expensive. It's going to be really hard. But if you can get through to the other side, it's so incredibly powerful, and you can do almost anything you want as a lawyer, except maybe practice medicine. That's not going to happen.
There you go. And sometimes lawyers get a lot of jokes. I have a lot of lawyer friends, and sometimes they're the one telling the lawyer jokes. But what's the old line? Everybody, no one likes attorneys until they need to call one or something like that. When's the best time to call an attorney? When you really need one, I guess.
If you're stressing over a legal issue or something that you think is going to be a legal issue, I think you call an attorney right then. If you call a good attorney, right, they will tell you, you don't need to stress and you don't need a lawyer right now. Or they'll tell you, hey, yes, this is what you should be concerned about. This is what we can do. But if you don't make that call, you're going to continue to stress because you're not going to know, and it's going to weigh on you. It's going to affect other areas of your life. So reach out to an attorney, have an attorney that you know, a relationship with an attorney in case you need to make that call, and call as soon as you start to lose sleep or think about it in the shower, right? I always tell people, if you're thinking about it in the shower, it is occupying an awful lot of space, and we should go talk about it so that we can free up some of that stress.
There you go. I'm always thinking in the shower about, I should sue the person who made this damn loofah. It's too hard. This shampoo sucks. I have to use it 3 times to get all my dirt out of my hair. I'm a guy. It's that way. I mean, the law is so important. I think a lot of Americans take the law for granted. Recently I've been reading the Federalist Papers and, talking about the laying of the foundation of the Constitution. You look at how the shapers of our country, we're a nation of laws. People don't realize that a lot of the freedoms you have every day come from a lot of the things that are out there. And so it's really important to have. So you delve into family law, probate, trusts, elder law, elder abuse, conservatorships, and guardianships. One of the things you talked about recently is the Britney Spears conservatorship case. This will get us some SEO hits, I guess. There's also I was kind of surprised that the conservatorship ran for so long. And then there's the recent football player. Who's the football player recently that
Michael?
he thought he was adopted, and it was a big movie everyone cried about. I think I went and cried to it, and turns out the whole thing was maybe a fraud. I don't know.
Well, so one thing that's interesting about these is the conservatorship or the conservatorship issues, if you will, have been going on for a very long time. This is not news.
Mm-hmm.
It became newsworthy when it involved Britney Spears and Michael, both two, celebrity status individuals, which on one hand is really great because when you look at what happened to them, it's pretty shocking, and it caused the laws to change and the laws to really protect the rights of the individual. And I think that's super important. So when we think about conservatorships, in other states, they're called adult guardianships. We're basically taking an adult and giving them maybe less rights or the same amount of rights that they had when they were minor children. That's a huge infringement on, your fundamental rights as an individual. And it was able to happen. And because somebody had been deemed incapacitated, right? They can't make any decisions. We're going to treat them like a child. They didn't even have the ability to go say, well, I want to hire my own lawyer because I think everybody's in on this together.
Yeah.
They weren't even allowed to do that. So pretty shocking and kind of amazing that it's caused such huge change within the legislative laws and the courts and how everything is being handled. And I think for the better.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, there was a time where Britney seemed a little bit out of control. Might have been some drugs involved, and when you're attacking Ford Broncos with umbrellas and stuff in the middle of the night, shaving your head, maybe you needed some help for a little while. But it's like 25 years or something.
It was like 13 years. And the thing that's interesting is she was still able to perform, right? She was she was working. And you oftentimes don't see that if somebody is unable to make their own decisions, they typically have some kind of inability to work as much as she was. The controls that were going on in her case, I was never involved in representation, but I heard that, how she performed dictated whether she could see her children at the visitation. Those kind of controls are really kind of an abuse of power. And I think when it all came to light, it was really where not only us as citizens or individuals, but the politicians and the legislators and all of these couldn't turn a blind eye anymore. And they had to say, well, she may need help or somebody may need help, but we're going to let them still participate in their life. And we're going to restrict the control to the least restrictive means. And we'll revisit it as we need to,
Yeah. We definitely always have to be looking at our laws and seeing how they can be improved. How do I get a conservatorship over a billionaire? Is there a way I can get that done? Because it always seems like only
one first.
We've had a few on the show. It always seems like the people they want conservatorships are the people that are making money, like Britney and that Michael NFL guy. So
there's a lot of money that could be made as we saw with Britney when you're controlling somebody's life.
No one's trying to get conservatorship of the Chris Voss Show. Actually, I sold my conservatorship. The Chris Voss Show owns me, and so I am enslaved. So there you go. That's why I'm stuck in the chair all day long, taped to it, duct taped to it, folks. Please help me. I'm winking. No, I'm just kidding. SOS. So another thing you focus on that I think is important to talk about is elder abuse. This is a big deal. I had a mortgage company for 20 years. And one of the things that I used to really used to grind my whatever is I would see people that would come in and they'd be seizing the home of their parent or loved one who's an elder. And they would be doing it for the money aspect of it. Sometimes they'd be really honest about it. They were just like, hey, she's got a lot of equity and she's kind of old, so throw in her home and take the home. And I'd see, sometimes I'd be working with the elder mother or father, and they'd be talking to me and asking, for some sort of counsel on what their kids are trying to do. Like sometimes we'd be trying to refinance their home so they could save, I think there was one case we were going to save a little old lady $1,200 a month in her credit card, paying off our credit cards with her equity. And she'd somehow given access to the title through a couple of her kids. Said, hey, we want that title, in case she passed away. And so we were trying to refinance her to save her this money that, she was on a fixed income. And the kids wouldn't let me do it because they're like, that's our equity. And you're like, holy shit, what's going on with you? So are these types of things you see with elder abuse, financial abuse? Is it physical abuse too as well?
There's a lot of physical abuse that typically comes when we're talking about, I mean, sometimes it's just straight physical abuse like you would get in any situation, but oftentimes it ends up resulting from somebody that has like dementia or some kind of cognitive impairment, and the physical abuse ends up kind of manifesting as a result of frustrations in caregiving. But financial abuse, man, sometimes, you know, seniors fall victim to the Prince of Egypt that's going to make them a billionaire if they just send all of their money over. But most of the financial abuse ends up coming from children or caregivers, people that are very close. And the house, hands down is the first thing that people go to, especially in California, because there's so much, houses are worth so much in California. And so we see, you know, I had one situation where the child had taken ownership of the house and was evicting the parent. And it's like, where's this person supposed to go, you know? And it's really devastating. The money that goes, the house that goes, especially when you're talking about fixed income and they don't have the ability to kind of repair it. But we're seeing more involvement from the district attorneys. We're seeing more involvement from the FBI to really get a handle on financial elder abuse. But it is devastating. If you know about it, then the faster we can get a hold of it, you know, it's always easier to stop or prevent rather than to go and try and collect money that's already been spent. So
there you go. What's your advice to people, like if there's families out there that they have that one sibling who's up to that sort of thing, trying to seize homes and assets and, you know, throw the mom or the dad into the rest home and all that stuff? What's your advice to them? Do they need to call an attorney like yourself? Is it a criminal sort of thing they need to report to the police? What's the process out there for that?
We'll definitely report it to the police. There's adult protective services that you can report to. As a lawyer, I always say, like, call a lawyer, we can help, right? We can go and get the courts to intervene. But I also realize that there's a huge family component to this that needs to be recognized. If sibling is doing, I mean, I can't tell you, Chris, how many times I've had the sibling call and say, but I don't want to upset mom or dad, so I don't want to file in court because they're going to be upset that we're all fighting. And so I think you need to understand what's going on and then see, you know, one of the things that I do with my clients is see how this family dynamic fits into what is happening and how can we maintain or restore a family without, you know, causing somebody to be abused financially. But reach out to law enforcement, reach out to APS, reach out to any of the senior centers that you've got. Call an elder abuse attorney, and there are things that can be done. The things to look for, though, are if you've noticed, whether you are the senior or it's a family member, are, you know, names being added to bank accounts, are titles of houses being changed, is there one person that is, you know, are new wills or trusts that are being made, are they being isolated, are they able to make phone calls when they want and see who they want to see? All of those are huge triggers that we have the same, you know, they're very common when we see financial elder abuse, is this pattern of behavior. So if you see any one of them, you know, sooner the better.
There you go. I remember early in social media, I saw one of the top Twitter people when it was fairly new, and he was like huge and everyone loved him and he seemed like a really nice guy. And then someone sent me something one day and they go, hey, that guy got busted for elder abuse. And I'm like, really? What happened? And turns out he'd always been posting these pictures of these big screen TVs he would buy and all these gaming systems, and, you know, and you're like, God, he's doing well. He's living the life there. Turns out he had moved into his mother's house. And I imagine she had some sort of dementia, and she was literally living in her bed with bed sores. And he was cashing her Social Security checks and living up the life on her money. And I guess some, I don't know, relative or neighbor, somebody finally called it in, and the cop showed up and went, you know, she's covered in bed sores, you know, you're not taking care of her, and yada, yada, yada. He was arrested and charged. And so it's a really big deal. Let me ask you this, because my sister has been in a lot of care centers. She has MS and dementia now as well, and long COVID too. And so with there's a lot of this sort of, I imagine you would call it abuse in some of these rest homes and care centers. Have you You guys, is there anybody that specializes that for attorneys and stuff?
Yeah, there is. And I think that one of the best preventative measures is to go in and make contact. That whole squeaky wheel, what is it? The squeaky wheel gets the grease or something. That can be applied in so many situations, but it even applies in like these nursing home or care centers, because if you're always there, they're going to make sure that they're more on their P's and Q's. So, have them know who they are, have them know you, make sure that they see that you're a presence and that you care. If their nursing home abuse is, again, very common, whether it's just, not moving somebody who is in their bed all the time, not providing food, maybe leaving them to not get their care. There's also financial abuse, right? You have somebody in a very vulnerable situation and you provide the care and the companionship, and now you kind of hint to them like, well, why don't you, give me a kickback or change your will? Wow. Because I love you and your kids don't. So I would suggest the same thing. Law enforcement, any regulatory boards are a really good idea. Adult Protective Services, an attorney probably that does elder law would be able to help. I help with things like that. And so we can see the primary, my goal in those kind of situations is to get the care that is necessary. I think when we're dealing with a situation like that, it's less about recovering money. That's always helpful, but it's more about in the immediate, how do we make sure that this person that's in one of these facilities is getting the care that they need?
There you go. And it's kind of interesting, if you complain at these facilities or file grievances, they can literally just kick you out. And it's not that easy to place somebody, especially if they're, in deep into Medicare and they need 2 or 3 people to help them out. I mean, my sister's been moved through, I think, about 7 different homes, and there's been issues between, bad employees and stuff. And I think a lot of it, she's very young. She's 7 years younger than me, but most of the people in the homes that we see that there are abuse going on, they're older, they fall under elder abuse and elder care. And it's really interesting because sadly people seem to throw their elders away and never visit them.
That's the thing, right? They don't visit, and then they become more susceptible. And I do agree with you. I get many people that when I say, this is what we need to do, here's the plan. It's like, well, as soon as I complain to the manager, then they're not going to treat my mom as nice, or they're not going to treat my dad as nice. And that's a very, very valid concern. How many times is your family member going to have to push that call button before somebody comes in if you're the one that's complained, even if it's a legitimate gripe? Yeah.
Or if they can even get the call button thing. Right. we had things where it's been kept away from them on purpose. So there you go. What are some advice you give to clients that are in stressful litigation cases? Because, these get highly emotional. I've gone to family court with some friends that were fighting over child custody and whatever all that bullshit they did in their relationship. And I've seen family law court. And fortunately, I've never been on the plaintiff defendant side of it, but I see the stress. I guess that's my point.
I agree. I joke with my husband sometimes that the reason that we're still married is because I see what a disaster family law court is.
Wow.
I'm just kidding. I really love him.
That's true love right there.
So with every case, whether you are in family law, probate court, probably even criminal, except that we have different laws over criminal, the legal process is a hurry up and wait situation. I'm very comfortable in that because I was in the Army. So I understand the hurry up and wait philosophy. But I think that's probably the most stressful part, aside from the emotions, right? Is, well, I need child support right now. I don't have a place to live and I have to move out because the house is selling and I need all of these things. And they come to me, they're like, so make it happen. I'm like, well, so that's not an emergency from the court's perspective. So we'll get on calendar in 5 months and the court will make a decision now. That's really, really hard for people to understand. And that is so above my pay grade. Like, go talk to your congressman and some other people about how to sort that whole thing out. But I think if people go in knowing that you're probably not going to get immediate results in any court system. And then having an attorney if you're going to have an attorney, right? You don't need your own attorney. You have a constitutional right to represent yourself. You also have a constitutional right to have an attorney present with you. But if you're going to have an attorney, you really need to trust that attorney. And people always think that's so obvious. And I'm like, even if you have the crappiest, I don't know if I'm allowed to say that on your show, but you have the worst attorney in the world, right? You have Better Call Saul as your counsel. It doesn't matter if you trust him, right? Because
Wait, he was pretty good in the show, though.
He was.
I don't know if he was ethical or moral,
but you need to trust what your attorney tells you and their guidance in your case. Otherwise, you're going to be stressed at every level. If you have the best attorney in the world and you don't trust anything they say, you're also going to be very unhappy. So make sure you trust your attorney. Know that, the rules of evidence make it so that every little thing isn't going to come in. And I know in today's age, because I get told this all the time on my social media, people want to be accepted and don't like that there's rules. I think it's really important if you're in court to kind of concede that you need to represent yourself in a particular light. And it doesn't really matter if you have to fake it till you make it in court. You have to do that. You have to posture because the court is getting this much evidence and they're making a decision that's going to affect your whole life. It's not going to affect their life. They don't care, but it is going to affect yours. So, be polite in court, wear the right shoes, don't interrupt, all of the things.
Yeah, don't yell at the judge. That's always bad. I love watching the court cases. I'll see them on TikTok or something, or Cops TV or whatever, Court TV, and I'll see like the things where the people go off on the judge, and the judge is like, "Really? Okay, I have another 6 months there." And
right.
But
they get out of their own hearing, right? I've been in court when the judge is like, "Yeah, so bailiff take them out," and they don't get to say anything anymore. I'm like, "Well, that was no." Yeah. Your voice was taken.
Yeah, there was that one gal who killed somebody recently, and they had like a bag over her face so she couldn't spit or talk or something, and she just had to sit there in the courtroom. I thought it was funny to just watch her eyes and her facial language, and it's like, yeah, that's note to self. I'm one of those people that, and if I ever get like depressed or whatever, I'll go watch Cops for a while or Court TV, and then after like 2 hours of watching the shit show car crash that people I'm like, well, that's awesome, man. I haven't been to jail today. I don't have cops kicking down my door. I'm not wearing a wife beater on the couch, or I'm shirtless on the couch. That clearly is me that at the trailer home is going to the prison tonight. I'm doing pretty damn good. I should be really grateful about my life.
You set that bar way down here, and then
you feel great. You're like, my problems don't mean anything compared to what these people are doing. And so there you go. The one thing about divorce court is, as I see the amount of money that people spend in divorce court, and a lot of them just don't seem to realize that half the stuff they want to fight over in divorce court, like divorce court doesn't care about.
It's nonsense. I don't take those kind of cases anymore. I used to, when I had to pay my rent and stuff. But now I tell people, if you're fighting over the silverware, I am not the attorney for you, because I'm just going to tell you to go buy new silverware and let's just move on. And then, you look at, I'll be honest, I didn't follow the Bezos divorce very, very much, but you didn't hear about it too much, right? And I think that could just be a really good lesson for a lot of people, is these are two incredibly wealthy people.
Well, I think they were both vested in Amazon, and
we could all take a lesson.
Yeah, I think it was because they were both vested in Amazon, and they knew if they turned it into a shit show, their value of Amazon stock would go in the toilet.
And I guess if I was walking away with the divorce with $35 billion or something, I would have less to bitch about.
You think you would? I don't know, that one divorce with who is it? Brad Pitt and his wife has been going on for 16 freaking years. Like, I've been single and dated all my life, and the one thing that's always been interesting about ex-married divorced people, I've never been divorced. I'm still saving up a few $1 million for my first one.
It's a good idea.
And my second one too. I'm gonna do 2 or 3 back to back so I can catch up to everyone. One thing I've noticed is, like, they're like more about each other and think about each other, and they're more engaged with each other usually in anger and bitterness than they were when they were married. And I'm like, you guys divorced to get the fuck away from each other.
I call that being married to the divorce, and it's a very real thing
for it. And I had one friend that I went to family court for. They each spent $50,000 each, and they put it on credit cards too, which is even more insane. They spent $50,000 each just to get the same thing the judge offered them at the beginning, because they wanted to fight over, I don't know how many times he left the toilet seat up and you said the silverware and stuff. And they wanted to fight all about that. So they did that. So they spent $100,000. And afterwards, they finally ran out of money and settled. And I told them, I go, you have 2 children. You could put that $100,000 into a, passbook savings account, or, maybe a IRA, some sort of investment vehicles, T-bills or something that was safe. And those kids, you'd have their college paid for it. But no, you blew it out because you want to argue about the toilet seat and I don't know which way to put the toilet paper on the roll. So there's that.
Yeah, and there's definitely people that like to do that.
Yeah.
But I also think that the attorneys, they could have potentially had an attorney that would counsel them on how that was maybe not the best money spent. I'm not here, I support myself with people paying attorneys, but at the same time, like I'll be very candid with my clients. Be like, so at the end of the day, I had one where it was a settlement offer of like $200,000 and they were like, I'd rather give you the $200,000 than pay them. And I'm like, well, I really appreciate that, but that's stupid. Right?
Yeah, it's interesting.
You're willing to pay me the $200,000. Why don't you just pay them and we can have this all go away?
If I ever get divorced, or if I ever get bored, like I'm just bored in life and I got nothing better to do, I'm going to get married and then get divorced really quick, just so I can experience what everyone else has in this world.
Yeah.
One last thing I wanted to squeeze in here: probate and trust. How important is it for people to put their assets in trusts and build trusts and probate stuff?
Well, it depends where you live because every state is quite a bit different. I think, so one of the big takeaways that I tell people is if you don't do a will or a trust, and we won't get into the differences and what you should have, but if you just don't do any estate planning, you are falling to the laws that legislators have created with regard to who's going to be in charge, where the money, who's going to inherit, what is going to be paid, and taxes and all of the things. So if you want any say, then it's really important to get some kind of estate plan done. Not everybody needs a trust. Not everybody wants a trust, but at least having the opportunity. Again, we have all of these rights. And your failure to do a will or a trust, or at least look into it, really is impeding your own rights to make the decisions about how you're going to be cared for, who's going to be in charge, and where your money is going to go. And so, look out for your own self and make your decisions. Don't leave it to the government.
There you go. Don't leave it to the government, because I think they take half or whatever, if not more.
There's a lot of taxes out there. And I'm not going to sit here and say you can get out of taxes. I don't do taxes. But at least know, right? Know what is going to happen and make the decisions that you can for what you want to happen.
Yeah, it's tough to think about, what would happen if I die and all that stuff. People don't like to think about it, but it's important because government has.
Right, and I tell people, because they I can't, it's so sad. And I'm like, yeah, it's super sad. Like, I don't want to actually think that my kids are going to have no parents, but when I do my own, and everybody laughs at me because I every time my husband and I travel together without our kids, I redo the entire thing.
Oh, really?
And I say, if something were to happen to both of us, now we have minor children, so our situation's a little different, but if something were to happen to both of us, there's no getting around the fact that my children's life has just imploded. Their life will never be the same. They're going to have huge catastrophic emotional, it's just going to be a mess. So if I can at least set it up so that they know that they get to go to school tomorrow and how there's somebody there that's going to take them, and that they can continue their extracurricular activities or stay in the house that they've been raised in. Those little things are the best that I can do so that their world is just a little bit better after it completely implodes. And that's, at least for me, how I can get through kind of the super depressing part of I could be dead and I wouldn't see my kids anymore.
There you go. I'll be interested to see if you change your will and your mind once they turn teenagers. Oh,
I have an adult child, and I was going to give all of my money to my adult child. I'm 18, 12, and 10. And I now, I have clients where everything's been left to charity, and some people get so pissed, and all I can think is, oh my God, if they say anything like this, I'm leaving everything to charity. I don't even care if I write a check to the government, anything but them.
I solved that problem. I sent my kids off right as soon as they were born to military school. They're supposed to call me when they're 18, but we've moved and changed numbers multiple times. So
there you go.
Mari won't catch up to me. Well, it's been very insightful and great advice to have you on the show, Rachel. Thank you very much for coming on.
My pleasure. It's been super fun.
There you go. Give us your .com so people can find you on the interwebs.
thelawyerking.com. It's super easy. I'm the Lawyer King everywhere, whether it's .com or again, all of the socials, all of it. You can find me there, and you can even get a phone number to text me on my personal cell phone.
There you go. And if you meet another lawyer king, are you going to have a like medieval battle to the death, fiefdom fight sort of thing going on?
I don't know. Maybe my dad and I have a podcast called The Lawyer Kings.
Oh, do you?
And
get a plug-in for that.
I didn't know how I felt about it, having plural, having to fight with him over being the Lawyer King. Fortunately, he's heading into retirement, so that battle will.
And you want to make sure you're in as well. So there.
Right, of course.
Yeah, you can't muck that up. You know, you're in the probate and trust business there. So thank you very much, Rachel, for coming on. We really appreciate it. Thanks so much for tuning in. As always, refer the show to your family, friends, and relatives. Hey, we got to pay for that opera chick who did the singing there. We're going to put it at the beginning of the show from here on out. So support the show, and it's free. Just refer the show. It's that easy, people. We're not asking you to join a cult or I don't know, pay 10% of your earnings like some kind of cult. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, youtube.com/Chris Voss, linkedin.com/Chris Voss. The big LinkedIn newsletter just broke 7,000 people, and it grows like a weed, man. Like it just bounces. So go check that out. And Chris Voss 1 on TikTok. Thanks for tuning in. Be good to each other. Stay safe, and we'll see you guys next time.